Imagine a being of infinite strength who does not even know it exists. Not because it was taken from him, but because it was forgotten. In the forests of ancient Bharat lived a child unlike any other, Bala Hanuman, curious, fearless, uncontainable. He did not walk, he leapt. He did not observe, he acted. One morning, he looked up at the sky and saw the brilliant sun, radiant, golden, blazing. To the world, it was the sun. To him, it was a fruit, sweet, shining, calling to him. And without hesitation, he jumped. Not a small leap, not a child's attempt, a cosmic ascent. Through the skies, through the winds, breaking the limits of earth itself. This was no ordinary child. This was power, without awareness. The Devas watched, stunned, concerned. Because this was no game. A child flying toward the sun could unbalance the order of the cosmos. So Indra, king of the Devas, acted. He raised his Vajra and struck. The bolt hit Hanuman mid-flight. The child fell from the sky to the earth. Silence. The wind stopped because Vayu, his father, withdrew his breath from the world. No air, no life, no movement. Creation itself began to suffocate. The Devas panicked. This was no longer about a reckless child, this was about existence. So they came together. One by one, they offered him boons. Immunity from weapons, strength beyond measure, speed beyond thought, a body no force could destroy. They gave him everything, everything a being could possibly need. And then, the sages stepped forward. Because they saw something the Devas did not. This child had no sense of limit. He would pull sages out of meditation, disturb rituals, laugh at discipline, not out of malice, but because he did not understand his own power. And power, without awareness, is not divine. It is dangerous. So the sages made a decision, not to destroy him, not to weaken him, but to protect the world from him. They placed a curse. You will forget your strength. Not forever, not completely, but until someone reminds you. And just like that, the mightiest being on earth became unaware of himself. Hanuman grew, strong, capable, present, but silent, contained. The fire was still there, the strength was still there, the potential unchanged. But it slept. Not because it was lost, but because it was unrecognized. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. Because this is not just about Hanuman. Look at the pattern. Strength that is never used, capability that stays hidden, potential that waits for permission. Not destroyed, not removed. Just forgotten. We like to believe we are limited, that we are not ready, not capable, not meant for something greater. But what if nothing was taken from you? What if you are not weak? You have just never been reminded. Hanuman did not lose his power. He lost the memory of it. And until that memory returns, even the strongest being lives like an ordinary one. The question is not, do you have power? The question is, who reminded you that you do? There comes a moment when strength is not gained but remembered. The southern search party had reached its limit. Before them, the ocean, vast, uncrossable, endless. Behind them, failure. Days of searching, no trace of Sita. Until one moment changed everything. Sampati, the aged vulture, brother of Jatayu. He had seen her, across the ocean, in Lanka. Now the problem was no longer uncertainty, it was distance. Who could cross? The Vanaras gathered. One by one, they spoke. I can leap 10 yojanas. I can leap 20. I can go far, but not return. Each voice strong, but limited. Even Angada, the crown prince, paused. Because this was not just about jumping. It was about certainty. And in the middle of all of them sat Hanuman. Quiet, still, not stepping forward, not because he lacked power, but because he did not claim it. Hanuman was present, capable, but not asserting himself. So finally, Jambavan spoke, not to the group, to him. O Hanuman, Hanuman listens to the wise Jambavan. You are capable of crossing this ocean. Is he though? Hanuman is tentative. So Jambavan continued, You are the son of Vayu. You are equal to Garuda in speed. No obstacle can restrain you. You are the one we have been waiting for. This was not praise. This was identification. He was not giving Hanuman strength. He was revealing it. And something shifts. Hanuman listens, not as a warrior, but as someone hearing the truth about himself for the first time. The hesitation breaks. The mind aligns. As Jambavan finishes, a confident Hanuman rises, not slowly, decisively. His body begins to expand, from Vanar to mountain. His form grows, his energy surges. The earth beneath him trembles, trees shake, rocks split. This is not metaphor, this is manifestation. The power was always there, now it is expressed. Hanuman turns to the Vanaras. Confidence, clarity, authority. I will go. No doubt, no calculation, only certainty. This is the moment, not when he leaps, but when he decides. Because the leap is just a consequence. The real transformation already happened. Look at this carefully. Nothing external changed. The ocean is still there. The distance is still impossible. But the one who faces it is no longer the same. This is the difference between trying and knowing. Jambavan did not empower Hanuman. He reminded him. And once remembered, there is no hesitation. Because doubt cannot survive in clarity. This is not just a story moment. This is a principle. You do not always need more strength. Sometimes, you need the right reminder. Because like Hanuman, you may already be capable and simply not acting like it. He bows, not to the ocean, to purpose. He remembers Rama. He remembers Sita. He remembers why he stands here. This is critical, because power without purpose is directionless. Hanuman anchors himself in devotion. And now, there is no doubt left. He moves toward the mountain peak, Mahendra Parvata, the launch point. Each step, heavy, not from weight, from contained force. He places his feet firmly, adjusts his stance, presses his hands into the mountain. The wind begins to gather, not around him, with him, because he is Vayu's son. The air responds, the forest reacts, birds scatter, leaves spiral. The entire environment acknowledges what is about to happen. Hanuman looks forward one last time, not measuring distance, accepting it. This is the difference. Doubt asks, how far is it? Clarity says, it must be done. And then he compresses, all that power condensed for a single action. He launches. The mountain shakes, rocks break free, trees are uprooted, and Hanuman rises. Not falling, not struggling, rising through the sky, through the wind, across the impossible. Below him, the ocean roars. Waves crash, depths churn, but he does not look down, because when direction is clear, distraction disappears. This is not a jump, this is commitment. And the Valmiki Ramayana describes this not as effort, but as inevitability. Because once the mind is aligned, action follows without resistance. But the path is not empty. The ocean tests him. First, Menaka rises, a mountain from the depths, offering rest, offering pause, a reward before completion. Hanuman does not stop. He acknowledges, but does not accept, because comfort is the final distraction before success. Then, Surasa, a challenge, a trial of intelligence, not strength. Hanuman adapts, expands, contracts, outmaneuvers, because true capability is not rigid. it is responsive. And then, Simhika, the one who pulls shadows, who drags from below. This is different. This is obstruction. And here, Hanuman does not avoid, he eliminates decisively, because some obstacles are not meant to be negotiated, they are meant to be ended. And then, the sky clears, the path stabilizes, and in the distance, Lanka, the destination, real, visible, achievable. This is the moment, not when he lands, but when he sees. Because now, there is no uncertainty left, only execution. Look at what just happened. The ocean did not shrink. The obstacles did not disappear. The path did not become easy. He changed. And everything else became irrelevant. This is what people misunderstand about faith. Faith is not belief. Faith is action without the guarantee of outcome. Hanuman did not wait for certainty. He created it. And once he moved, the path revealed itself. Because the first step is never supported by proof, only by decision. And that is why this is not just a leap across an ocean. This is the moment where hesitation ends and action begins. The question is not, can you cross your ocean? The question is, will you jump? Welcome to Lanka. Let's pause briefly here and examine what can you as a Hindu learn from Hanuman, a child with limitless strength who didn't know it, a warrior who stood before an ocean and doubted himself, a being who crossed the impossible because he chose to act. These are not three different stories, they are three stages. And if you look carefully, they are not about Hanuman alone, they are about you. First, the forgotten power. You are capable of more than you use, not because you lack ability, but because you have never been reminded. Like Hanuman, you live below your potential, not defeated, just unawakened. Second, the moment of awakening. Nothing new was given to him, no new strength, no new blessing, only a reminder. You are not weak, and everything changed. Because once you see clearly, doubt loses its hold. Ask yourself, what have you already been given that you refuse to claim? Third, the leap. The ocean did not shrink. The challenge did not disappear. Fear did not vanish completely, but he moved anyway. Because faith is not belief, it is action. You do not wait until fear is gone. You move despite it. And that is where most people stop. They never leap. Hanuman did. And that is why he reached Lanka. But here is the deeper truth. Crossing the ocean was not the real test. What comes after is harder. Because power is easy to show. Control is not. In part 2, we will see what happens when Hanuman enters Lanka. Not as a warrior, but as something far more dangerous. Disciplined. You will see why he does not destroy Lanka immediately. How he finds Sita without being detected. What true strength looks like under pressure. And why control is greater than power. Because the real lesson is not how strong was Hanuman. It is, when did he choose to use that strength and when did he not? And that is where everything changes. This is not the end of the story. This is where it becomes difficult. This is where it becomes real. Part 2 continues. And now a small request. If you believe that honest, research-based dialogues about our religious civilization are important, subscribe to this channel today. Turn on the bell notification and share this video with all those who want to understand the history of India seriously. Hold your legacy with dignity, in your thoughts, in your conduct, and in wearing your cultural and religious symbols with pride. Like Bindi for my Hindu sisters and Vibhuti and Chandan Tilak for my Hindu brothers. Because a confident civilizational society endures. I'll see you again soon. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Vande Mataram.